Folks, I think I know who Columbina is. And I think I know who Capitano is as well. From the contents of 5.0 alone, as well as pieces of Natlan lore we've gotten in the past, I think we have been given enough information to piece together exactly who the infamous captain is, as well as how Columbina fits into the entire Natlan equation. I'm gonna walk you through my thought process, so stick with me. Let's start with a well-known theory, the Fatui wheel. The theory goes that if we start from the bottom of the wheel and go counterclockwise, we will discover the order in which we fight the Fatui. So, at the bottom, we have Child's Whale constellation, then we have Signora's Moth, then Scaramouche's Puppet, and most recently, Arlecchino's Hand. The final two constellations are interesting, however. People speculate that Columbina is the crying dove because out of all the remaining constellations, the symbol of a pure dove is fitting for her. Additionally, the three wings of the dove represent the three wings on one side of her headpiece, adding up to 6 for both sides. The closed eye of the dove represents her closed eyes in the Winter Night's Lotso trailer. So, because we're talking about Columbina, why don't we tackle her identity first? For this video, I will be assuming that Columbina's constellation is the Crying Dove, but according to the Fatui wheel theory, that would mean that she would be the next weekly boss we go toe-to-toe with. However, there's a problem with that. Right now, Capitano is the big Fatui character in Natlan, and we've got no mention of Columbina even in the 5.1 livestream. It would make more sense if Capitano is the next weekly boss, right? Well, we'll get back to that, but let me make my case as to why I think we will be getting Columbina lore in Natlan, and why she will be tied to this region. Now, I don't know if you folks have encountered these super annoying Wayob manifestations in Natlan, but as much as they are a nuisance, they're also quite interesting design-wise, because they look quite like biblically accurate angels. What's striking is their 6 wings. Columbina also has 6 wings in her headpiece, and is also heavily linked, visually at least, to biblical angels. Also, the word Wayob means sleeping in the Mayan language. This might be a stretch, but in A Winter Night's Lotso, we see that Columbina has her eyes closed, almost like she is asleep. The connections between the Wayob and Columbina don't stop there. The pattern on her face covering resembles a Seelie court, and paired with the fact that we see a Seelie in the Night Kingdom during the Archon quest, it leads me to believe that the Night Kingdom is heavily tied to Celestia, and perhaps there is a direct link between Celestia, Seelies, the Night Kingdom, and Columbina. There's no doubt that the Night Kingdom is a combination of Natlan's ley lines and their version of the afterlife. The Wayob manifestations born in the Night Realm look like angels, deceased Natlantians go to the Night Realm after their death, and the Night Realm is important to the culture of Natlan and its mythology. Yet, I think the celestial nails in the Night Realm suggests that Celestia tampered with the Night Realm in the past. See, when the celestial nail fell on Selvindignir, the entire mountain was enveloped with an endless blizzard. The celestial nail that fell in Sumeru turned that entire region into a desert, and Surumi Island's nail blanketed it with fog. Perhaps the Night Realm was also devastated by the celestial nails. I don't know what it might have looked like before the nails fell, but I do think I know how this ties back in with Columbina. But for me to explain myself, I need to pivot for a second. So, the 6 tribes of Natlan, huh? Last I've checked, we have 7 elements, but whatever. Let's say that we have 6 tribes based on 6 elements, and the element of Pyro is embodied by the Archon. Cool sauce, right? Well, I think there's something fishy here. We know for a fact that the Children of Echoes is the Geo tribe, the Scions of the Canopy is the Dendro tribe, and the People of the Springs is the Hydro tribe. However, what about the other 3 tribes? I believe that the Collective of Plenty is the Electro tribe, as Iansan is from that tribe and she has an Electro vision. Although the colors of the banner of the Collective of Plenty don't exactly scream Electro, I think this is correct. Next up, we have the Masters of the Nightwind, and I think they definitely correlate with Cryo. Setlali is Cryo, and on the tray of Saurian cookies, there's definitely a Saurian that has a Cryo-themed color palette. The reveal that Auroron has an Electro-vision is a little weird though, as we know that he's a member of the Masters of the Nightwind, but I still think that they are the Cryo tribe. All that's left is the Featherflower clan, and I've seen arguments saying that it's either Anemo or Pyro. Let's discuss the possibilities. So, representing the Featherflower clan are the Cuckoosaurs, these flying red saurians. When I saw these creatures, I thought that the Featherflower clan had to be Pyro. The Goldflame Cuckoosaur Tyrant boss also exclusively has Pyro attacks. On the other hand, Chaska, a known member of the Featherflower clan, has an Anemo vision. How does that check out? Well, I believe the fact that Auroron is Electro helps my case that the Featherflower clan is the Pyro tribe. Even though Auroron is from the Cryo tribe, he has an Electro vision for whatever reason. When it comes to Chaska, things become easier to explain because she was adopted. It's not clear what tribe her parents were from, we just know that she was adopted by the Featherflower clan, so I think that explains the element discrepancy there. So what? I just rambled on about tribes for a hot minute. How does this connect to Columbina? Well, if we are to understand that the 6 tribes of Natlan represent Geo, Dendro, Hydro, Electro, Cryo, and Pyro, then there's one element missing. And it's not the element of the Pyro Archon. The missing element is Anemo. Is there a missing Wayob, perhaps? Maybe a Columbina-shaped Wayob. So yeah, I'm positing that Columbina is actually a Wayob, or maybe a manifestation of the Wayob. We know that the Wayob can manifest itself and project these elemental beings with wings and such. Why can't they project themselves as humans, such as Columbina? I think that Columbina might be the missing Anemo Wayob, and that whatever happened to the Night Realm regarding the Celestial Nails drove her out. A missing Wayob would certainly explain why Vanessa's tribe got exiled. Even though they have red hair, I suspect that Vanessa's tribe might have been the Anemo tribe, and it would kind of make thematic sense for them to relocate to Mondstadt, the nation of Anemo. The Fatui wheel theory suggests that the next Fatui boss fight we go up against is Columbina, not Capitano, and I think with all the clues we have to connect her with Natlan, it would be plausible for her to show up in Natlan, maybe in version 5.3 and become the Trounce domain boss. Perhaps Columbina is the secret to the ley lines Capitano was talking about in the 5.0 Archon quest. Speaking of Capitano, what about him? I just stated that I think Columbina is the Anemo Wayob, but what about Capitano? I'm definitely more convinced about my theory regarding his identity, so listen up folks. I think we've known about Capitano's identity for a while, like version 4.0. Let me walk you through this. In the version 5.0 Archon quest, Capitano tells Mavuika that the oath you made 500 years ago remains unfulfilled, implying that he knows about the Pyro Archon's 500-year-old plan. But how could he have known this? The Pyro Archon has only told a select group of heroes about her plan. Well, I think that Capitano might be one of the heroes instrumental to Mavuika's plan. Think about it. During the epilogue of the 5.0 Archon quest, Capitano tells his mystery helper that Mavuika could have dispelled the smoke he used if she so chose, but she didn't. Well, if Capitano is instrumental to Mavuika's plans, it would make sense why she didn't dispel the smoke and allowed Capitano to leave. Perhaps Capitano is one of the original heroes from 500 years ago, and I think I know exactly who he is. I think Capitano is Tenoch. So, I see you all scratching your heads. How does Capitano being Tenoch make any sense? That seems a little far-fetched. Well, besides the reason I've already listed, there's quite a bit of evidence that Capitano is Tenoch. Let's go through them. Near the end of the Archon quest, when Mavuika is recalling her past memories, she visits with her family, as well as Tenoch. It's really interesting why Tenoch, out of all the Natlan heroes from 500 years ago, was shown here, but if we recall what he says to Mavuika, it starts making a bit more sense. Tenoch tells Mavuika in the flashback that she had better deliver the victory she owes to Natlan, or else he will find a way to collect the debt. That sounds quite similar to what Capitano said to Mavuika. He mentions that the oath made 500 years ago remains unfulfilled, and that he should be the one to make new rules for Natlan. Both Tenoch and Capitano sound like they are acting in the best interest of Natlan, but are antagonistic towards the Pyro Archon because they believe her plan is flawed. And in the 5.1 trailer, Capitano says, "If I could go back, I would do whatever it takes to ensure their survival," meaning that Capitano is definitely someone from Natlan's history, and Capitano is definitely acting in the interest of Natlan. But there's a couple of issues already, and if you are familiar with who Tenoch is, you might understand what it is I'm referring to here. Tenoch was a hero from Natlan who lived 500 years ago and helped Mavuika during the Cataclysm, but he didn't belong to any tribe. He was exiled from Natlan and lost his ancient name. This was probably due to his nature as a bloodthirsty and brutal warrior. A member of the Masters of the Nightwind, Sunhaj Kampore, predicted Tenoch's end, as well as the creation of the Mare Javari. It's implied that he died whilst fighting the Abyss, and because he lost his ancient name, he couldn't be revived. So, if that's the case, how can Tenoch possibly be Capitano? So, I'm going to give you folks 3 different explanations as to how Tenoch could have become Capitano, and I'm going to list them from the least tinfoil to the most tinfoil. This is not to say that my first prediction is necessarily the most accurate, just that it's the least fun. With that being said, let's get into explanation number 1. So, it's only implied that Tenoch died in the Abyss, but what if he just didn't? Tenoch founded a group of heroes during the Cataclysm, and the ancient names that those heroes possessed are currently under the possession of the heroes of our time. Specifically, Tenoch gathered 6 heroes, and he was the 7th. He was an outlier, and he didn't have an ancient name. Because the ancient names of the 6 heroes Tenoch gathered are still present today, that means that Tenoch's group of heroes succeeded in the Night Warden Wars, and presumably all got resurrected if any of them died to the Abyss. Obviously, Tenoch wouldn't have gotten resurrected because he doesn't have an ancient name, but because he was described as a battle-hungry warrior, I doubt that he would have died, while the others in his band of heroes lived. He seems to be described as quite skilled and adept in combat. The easy explanation of how Tenoch became Capitano is that Tenoch never died to the Abyss in the first place. Maybe after being disillusioned with the Pyro Archon's plan, something happened to Tenoch and he became Capitano, enlisting himself to the Fatui cause. Perhaps he even threw himself into the sacred flame, kind of like how mwah threw herself into the sacred flame to live a second life. That could explain how Tenoch, an ordinary mortal, lived to such a long age and became Capitano in the modern day. So, that was the basic explanation of how Tenoch became Capitano. How about something a bit more wild? We know from the Archon quest that the Ode of Resurrection is not the only way to bring back a soul from the Night Kingdom, as we rescued Kachina without the use of the Ode. I'm positing that something similar might have happened to Tenoch. In fact, if we are able to believe that Tenoch died to the Abyss and went into the Night Realm, that would complement the fact that Capitano knows the secret of the ley lines, and in extension, the Night Kingdom, since that is what we're trying to argue here. So essentially what I'm saying is that perhaps the 6 heroes all got resurrected, but Tenoch fell during the battle against the Abyss. As he doesn't have an ancient name, the Ode of Resurrection wouldn't work on him. Thus, I posit that the 6 heroes of Natlan's past dove into the Night Kingdom, kind of like what we did in the Archon quest, and revived Tenoch that way. However, there's a problem with this theory that I would like to address right now. During the fight scene between mwah and Capitano, we can clearly see that Capitano has a glow around him, signifying that he is indeed an ancient name-bearer. While that tells us that Capitano is definitely a Natlan native, all of a sudden it becomes kind of hard to connect him with Tenoch, as Tenoch's entire thing was that he was in exile without a tribe who lost his ancient name. Well, this problem can be addressed in 2 ways. The first is quite easy. Maybe mwah simply had Tenoch's ancient name restored after his fight against the Abyss. It would certainly be impressive for a person without an ancient name to go against the Abyss, so I would say that this theory is plausible. Another thing that I would like to note is that the glow around Capitano is clearly a cryo glow. This means that Capitano is connected to the Masters of the Nightwind. Therefore, I think Tenoch was from the Masters of the Nightwind before he was exiled. If we look at his in-game design, I think that tracks. He wears white, light blue, and indigo, with a yellow feather on his hat. That is the exact palette of the Masters of the Nightwind. If we look at the NPCs who belong to the Masters of the Nightwind, we see that they too wear those colors. Therefore, I think that Tenoch was a member of the Masters of the Nightwind before getting exiled, explaining the cryoglow that Capitano has. My final theory as to how Tenoch became Capitano is a batshit theory. In this theory, I attempt to explain how Capitano and Columbina are related, so buckle up everybody, this one is crazy. Let's go back to Columbina. I've suggested that she is the Anemo Wayob, and the tribe she correlates to is Vanessa's tribe who relocated to Mondstadt. We don't know what happens to a Wayob if its tribe were to disband, but seeing as they are the manifestation of the spirits of the entire tribe, its power would certainly diminish if their tribe were to just leave. Vanessa's tribe was exiled at least 1,000 years ago, which means that the Anemo Wayob Columbina would have been near powerless for 500 years until Capitano came along, or, as we have discussed, Tenoch. So, perhaps Tenoch dies to the Abyss and is wandering through the Night Kingdom. He is unable to be resurrected because he doesn't have an ancient name, but what happens if he were to somehow come across a Wayob he doesn't recognize? A secret, missing 7th Wayob, Columbina. Well, Tenoch doesn't have an ancient name, and Columbina doesn't have a tribe. They're kind of perfect for one another. We don't really know 100% how a Wayob works, but we do know that a Wayob is able to choose who inherits an ancient name. Now, because Vanessa's tribe was exiled, not defeated by the Abyss, we don't really know if that means that the ancient names of Vanessa's tribe would be gone or not. We know that Tenoch's ancient name was taken from him, and that he was exiled, but we don't know if those two events are connected. It's all very vague. For the sake of furthering my argument, I'd like to think that Columbina, the missing Anemo Wayob, has an ancient name or two just lying around. She might have given Tenoch an ancient name in the Night Kingdom before escaping with him, since she doesn't really have any reason to be in the Night Kingdom because her entire tribe was exiled. How could those two have escaped the Night Kingdom? Well, I honestly don't know. Perhaps this theory has overlap with my previous one, where Mavuika and the 6 heroes go into the Abyss and rescue Tenoch. But Tenoch probably learned some information from Columbina regarding why Vanessa's tribe got exiled. As Tenoch was an exiled Natlantean himself, he might have felt some connection there, and that might have led to his disillusionment with the Pyro Archon, and the rest is history. Admittedly, the 3 theories I came up with regarding how Tenoch became Capitano are kinda picky and choosy. There's a lot of information we don't know surrounding the Night Kingdom, ancient names, and the Wayob, but there's definitely overlap between Tenoch and Capitano. Their desires seem to align, their dialogue seems to mirror one another, and even their nature as a warrior is similar. The explanations I gave as to how Tenoch escaped the Night Kingdom and became Capitano are really just stories. There are 3 possible explanations. The information regarding Columbina being the Anemo Wayob is also quite sketch, I must admit, but there is something up with the Wayob of the Night Kingdom and why there are Seelies in the Night Kingdom, and how it all connects with Celestia and the Pyro Archon. I had a hard time making heads or tails out of all of this, but in the end, what I tried to give you was all the information we know that can possibly tie Columbina to the Wayob and Capitano to Tenoch, and give you explanations trying to rationalize why those similarities exist. I hope you found my work entertaining, and at least found some of my evidence or conjecture believable. 5.1 is literally right around the corner, so hopefully we'll see if I'm right or wrong very soon.